You know that your engine is cooled by air flowing over the cylinders, oil flowing inside, and extra fuel in a rich mixture. Now, suppose that your engine is running at really high engine temperatures. You would normally notice this by a higher than normal reading on your oil temperature gauge. Excessively high engine temperatures can cause a loss of power, excessive oil consumption, and even possible permanent internal engine damage. And I don't know about you, but none of these three options is appealing to me. Well, what can cause high engine temperature problems? Well, it could be not enough cooling air. Now, maybe it's a hot day, or you've been climbing quite a bit, or maybe you've been running on the ground for a long time and notice your oil temperature is sky high. In flight, you can reduce your rate of climb if you're climbing. Pitch the nose down a little bit so that you're not climbing so steeply, and that will subsequently increase your airspeed. If you were flying on the backside of the power curve and the engine began to overheat, you could just stop the maneuver and accelerate to cruise airspeed. Lowering the nose and increasing airspeed gets more air flowing, and that will all help you to cool off an overheating engine. If your engine is overheating on the ground, reduce the power and turn your airplane into the wind to get more air flowing through the engine. Now, another possible cause of overheating is operating with too much power, especially on hot days. You can reduce your power, which will reduce the amount of heat your engine produces. So we've increased the airflow and reduced the heat being generated by returning to cruise power. But let's say we still have high oil temperature. What else could it be? Well, maybe, just maybe, you're operating with the mixture set too lean. To cure that, you enrich in the fuel mixture. When you put more fuel into the engine, that excess fuel actually helps carry away some heat and cool off the engine. Another cause of high engine temperatures is low oil quantity. You already know that the reciprocating engine in your Skyhawk is very dependent on oil circulating inside for lubrication. Even though the engine is air-cooled, it depends a lot on oil for that cooling also. The circulating oil carries away heat from inside the engine where it's pumped out to this oil cooler down here, and then the air flowing through the cowling takes away the heat from the oil cooler. So a low oil level can cause the oil temperature to go up, and you would see both a higher than normal oil temperature and a lower than normal oil pressure. That's because oil becomes thinner as it gets hotter. Now, if you do suspect your engine is low on oil, it'd be a good idea to land at the nearest suitable airport and service the oil, because I've tried to do it while you're flying and it's a real mess. I don't recommend it. And so you can see why you really want to pay attention to that oil dipstick and make sure that your oil level is correct when you do your pre-flight. Excessive heat can also come from abnormal combustion called detonation. Now, this detonation occurs in a reciprocating engine when the fuel-air mixture explodes instead of burning smoothly. It's like pounding down on the top of the piston with a jackhammer. It can be very, very damaging. See, this has a piston migraine now. It's cracked. It can cause excessive temperatures and pressures, and that could damage the internal parts of the engine. Detonation can be difficult for a pilot to detect, but it's usually indicated by a decrease in exhaust gas temperatures, possibly a loss of power, and engine roughness. What can cause detonation? Well, one likely cause of detonation is using a lower octane fuel than what is specified for your engine. Since the Skyhawk uses 100 low lead octane blue fuel or 100 octane green, you would not want to use 87 octane red fuel because it's the next lower grade. It's not good for that engine. Not only does detonation cause overheating, but overheating promotes detonation. So detonation will be less likely if you keep the engine cool in the first place. Pre-ignition is another abnormal combustion that will cause a loss of power and engine roughness. What is pre-ignition in an engine? Pre-ignition is when the fuel-air charge in the cylinder ignites too soon. Here's what happens. your piston is moving upward. This fuel-air mixture ignites prematurely and pushes down on the piston, so you have a conflict. It's like if your landlord said, I want to raise the rent, before he even had the words out of his mouth, you said, no, I want you to lower the rent. You've got a conflict. Basically, what you have in pre-ignition are hot spots on the piston, the cylinders, or the valves, and those hot spots ignite the fuel-air charge before it should, in advance of normal spark ignition. This causes a loss of power and is also not very good for your engine. As with detonation, you can reduce the likelihood of pre-ignition by keeping that engine cool. There's not a lot more you can do without taking your engine to a mechanic and having them look it over. Pre-ignition's a tough one. So there you have it, folks. All of these conditions can cause the engine temperatures and oil temperatures to exceed their normal operating ranges. Now, there are several things that you can do to cool the engine down if it is overheating. In flight, you control engine heating with your power setting, and you control engine cooling with your airspeed and mixture setting. As a result, a full power, low airspeed climb will heat up the engine. So to summarize, if you have an overheating problem or suspect detonation or pre-ignition in flight, you can help cool the engine by reducing the pitch to increase the airspeed, reducing your power setting to decrease the engine heat, or enriching the fuel mixture to allow excess fuel to cool the cylinders. Now that you know how to monitor your engine temperatures and know how to keep your engine running cool, it will perform as it should, and that will keep you a heck of a lot cooler also.